Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, this is Tractor Man 44. This afternoon, I'm up at my son-in-law's house, and we're going to watch him make me a new handle for my cane hook that I broke while preparing for Splitter Wars 2020. It's going to be a pretty neat process, so hang in there with us.
I don't have a fro, so I'm going to have to use this axe that I put a short handle on a few years ago.
Now, he just referred to a fro. Now, you youngsters out there that don't know what that is, that's spelled F-R-O-E, and it's like a corn knife-shaped cutting tool with a 90-degree wooden handle on it that you use to stick across a piece of wood like this and shave down, or use it for splitting shingles or shingle shakes back in the day. So he does not have one. So the tool he's going to be using today is this 1960 Powermatic. It's a three-phase machine. Three-phase, I forgot how many horsepower motor is in the cabinet down underneath, but he's got that connected to a variable frequency drive so that he can operate the three-phase motor on single phase. It's also fitted with that Reeves drive there, and you can see all the numbers on the front. That's the RPMs that you can actually set the drive at when you have a motor rated with the specific RPM that it calls for, which was 1725. The motor he put on there, the only one that he had was a 3450 RPM. So that variable frequency drive he sets at 50% or 30 hertz, and that way he gets 1725 RPM. Then he can use that Reeves drive to adjust the RPMs that he so desires for whatever it is he's doing. Now on this cant hook handle, because there's various diameters from one end of it to the other, and pretty much a steady taper, into and out of those different diameters, he's got to make specific measurements every time it makes a subtle change in diameter, so that he can, and the distance from the end, so that he can actually mark that on the wood to match those dimensions. About right here is that critical dimensioning of the location, or the critical dimensions of the location of that pivot point, so that the geometry of the cane hook does not change. It's very important that you have that specific distance to get that hook to operate in combination with the pawls that he's got in his hands right there, and also the hook on the side of the cant, in order to get it to hook in and roll the log or the cant. Now, when I'm talking about a cant hook handle, or a cane hook, like, it's kind of a slang term. For those of you that might not be familiar with, like cutting wood or logging, or working around a sawmill or anything like that, a log obviously is the round part of a tree. Once you cut it down, cut all the branches off of it, take it to a sawmill, that is the log. Well, once you get that round log, on your sawmill, and you start squaring it all up, in order to start sawing lumber, dimension lumber off of it, that round log then becomes a cant. So whenever you're working with these square pieces or rectangular pieces of wood, upwards on small mills like ours, 14, maybe 16 feet long, is still a pretty good sizable piece, to roll around. When it's round, it's easy to roll. When it's square, it becomes much more difficult. That's why they call it a cant hook, because it's designed specifically to hook onto the square edges of the cant and actually turn it 90 degrees or 180 degrees on the head blocks of the sawmill to start the process for cutting your dimensional lumber. I thought maybe I better clarify that, because there may be one or two that don't quite understand what I'm talking about when I refer to something as a cant hook or a cant hook handle. Now, if old Reg Sparks happens to be tuned in, I'm going to give him a little bit of a teaser. Reg, remember whenever I kind of baited you guys with the promise of a couple of large bandsaws in the future? I'm going to show you the one that's up here at my son-in-law's house right now. This is about 1900 Yerkes & Finan 36-inch bandsaw. Obviously, we can't tell too much, our shops are both fairly busy and fairly cluttered, so you can see, the shape of the casting and all that stuff. You see the big pulley down under here, and of course about a 30 by 36 inch base thereabouts, and of course your big blade tensioner and stuff in there, our guides and everything for the bandsaw blade. It's going to be a nice project. Now, obviously, while I was doing all that talking, you could hear him over here whittling this thing down in the background. So now we get a chance to see what it is he's actually doing. Well, he's got the whole thing rounded from one end to the other. So now what we've got to go about the business of doing is making marks at these different every so many inches, at 1 inch, 3 inch, 6 inch, 13, 16, 20, whatever, and then make sure that he cuts it down to the diameters that he measured at those individual increments. Then he'll feather all of those together to make it come out nice and smooth.
Just so that they can kind of get a visual on that.
Now I got to come clean and tell y'all something. My son-in-law is a industrial arts teacher at our local high school, and this is a project for him that he's going to be showing for his students because obviously he's got to be during this school shutdown period. He's got to be working from home, in conjunction with YouTube and some private videos and things like that for his students. So this is actually a project that he's probably going to put on his channel, and I'll probably put a link somewhere or another, to so that people can actually see it on his channel, because he's got some very interesting things over there to look at as well. But I thought I'd better come clean and kind of admit that, So he's making a video for me and for himself. Now, if you're wondering about all that dust and sawdust, we're breathing, you see that tube there right in front of him. He's got one heck of a dust collection system in here. He just disconnects it from his pickup tube and sets it over here and sucks that dust right out instead of us guys having to breathe it. So that's pretty slick. I like that. So it's just about coming down to where he's separating it right now. This is the part that makes you pucker just a little bit. You cut her just a little bit too much right now, and it's just going to fly right off and pop you in the head.
So, I'm just going to give it a little tap and see what we got.
Right. Well, it's out of the lathe. We got it over here on the floor, and he's going to drive that pawl on there to kind of see how close that angle is that he developed there.
That thing will probably just drive on there.
I think it probably will just drive right on.
Yeah.
But if it's curling back the fibers like you said, you might want to trim those off. I don't know.
I don't see, there's no fibers being curled back yet.
Perfect, yeah.
I'm going to take that back off.
Take it back off and then go about the business of finish sanding. Mm-hmm. Now I don't trust myself with the with the Powermatic, but I feel pretty comfortable with the hand sander. So I put a little bit of sanding on it. He picked the camera up. I didn't even know he was photoing me. But had to make a little bit of a flatter spot there for that hook to bolt on, and that's what we're doing right there. We're just kind of dry fitting it over our pre-punched holes to see how it's going to fit the contour. Now this little handle is only 36 inches long, I think. So your hand's going to be in contact with that tail end there quite a lot. So you want to make sure that's nice and comfortable, to the heel of your hand. So we want her slick, man. Well, we had a pretty good project there for 2.5 hours or so. Combination project, for myself, but for my son-in-law, so that he can produce a short video for his students, because they've got to teach via computer, now during this period of school shutdown. But we had a good time making me a small cane hook handle to replace the one that I broke the other day in the log pile. Coming back up to the shop, I got to assemble all that and everything, and then we'll go back to business of putting the finish on it and all that. Ain't gonna be nothing fancy, linseed oil, used motor oil, anything like that to preserve it, keep the liquid out. But at any rate, walking back up, I went over to the other part of the old shed, and I pulled out a couple of things that I was going to show to you. I harp all the time on the fact that I'm a sucker for a bargain. And I used to go to a lot of farm auctions and everything, haven't so much lately because it's just been so busy the last 3 or 4 years after I retired. But the point I want to make is whenever you're driving by neighborhoods and you see little yard sales, especially rurally out in the country, you always want to stop by and take a look. See, you never know what you're going to find out. Now, anytime you come across something like this, it's just a horrible little Cant hook. That handle's not 2 feet long. It's not a 24-inch handle, but this is on incorrectly. Actually, the hook is on the clamp backwards, and this thing is just not right, and it's way too close to the end. But you know what? When you pick these up for 50 cents at a yard sale, that's very well spent money, because eventually you'll come up with the wherewithal to come up with a handle and make you a real good, $40, $50 cane hook. And at the same time, here's another one here, very similar to the ones that we're actually working on right now. This is a really good one, but of course it's got a broken handle. Guess who's been elected to make me another handle for this one here? He doesn't know it, but hopefully he's gotten to practice today to making them. So you know what? We beat this one to death. This is Tractor Man 44, and I am out of here.